They nearly succeeded in erasing it. An ancient manuscript that held a truth so dangerous, it threatened the very foundation of control. This wasn't a myth or vague philosophy. It was a manual, a system that taught ordinary people how to take command of the invisible forces shaping their lives. The elites feared it because once you understand how energy truly works, no one can rule over you. Buried beneath layers of allegory and hidden in symbolic language, the Corpus Hermeticum didn't just speak of abstract ideas. It revealed a blueprint for energy mastery, a practical method to shift reality itself by learning to command the very field that creates experience. This knowledge was never meant to fall into your hands, and yet here you are. The question now is simple. Once you see how deep this goes, will you dare to take control, or will you retreat back into the comforting illusion of powerlessness? For most of your life, you've been led to believe that reality is fixed, that events unfold according to external forces beyond your control. You were taught to adapt, to react, to cope with circumstances as if you were a passive observer in a world that simply happens to you. But the Hermetic masters knew something radically different, something that those in power worked tirelessly to suppress. They understood that reality is not a rigid structure, but a malleable field constantly responding to the signals you transmit. Your thoughts, emotions, and focus are not private echoes within your skull. They are active forces broadcasting into the field that surrounds you, shaping the very fabric of your experiences. The Corpus Hermeticum revealed that you are not separate from the universal current. You are a conduit through which it flows. Hidden beneath cryptic phrases and symbolic language, the Hermetic texts concealed a blueprint, a system that showed how energy moves, how it responds to directed attention, and how it can be shaped to serve your intent. This wasn't esoteric speculation. It was a manual for those who were ready to see beyond illusion, a guide for awakening your dormant potential. The elites throughout history understood the danger this knowledge posed. If ordinary people grasped their true capacity to influence reality, control structures would crumble. Obedience thrives when people believe they are powerless. But once you realize that your internal world generates your external life, compliance becomes impossible. They layered this knowledge under allegory, not to enlighten you, but to bury it. Symbols, cryptic teachings, and mystical language kept the core truth safely hidden in plain sight. Only those who dared to look deeper could begin to unlock its real message, and most never did. The masses were taught to dismiss such teachings as outdated mysticism, irrelevant philosophy, or abstract spirituality. But the real danger was never in what these texts said openly. It was in what they implied. That every thought you think carries weight, every emotion you feel radiates into the field, and every sustained focus begins to mold reality itself. Imagine for a moment that your inner state is not a silent passenger, but an active broadcast tower. The frustration you carry, the fear you suppress, the doubts you repeat, they don't stay contained within you. They seep into the energetic field around you, drawing in experiences that reflect those frequencies. This is why some people seem to live in constant chaos while others glide through life with ease. It isn't luck, it's coherence. Those who unknowingly align their inner world project stable, harmonious frequencies. Reality responds accordingly. This isn't about positive thinking, it's about energetic alignment. Now understand why this knowledge had to be hidden. A population aware of its creative power is uncontrollable. Governments, corporations, religious authorities, all systems of power rely on a passive, reactive population that consumes, obeys, and repeats the narratives handed to them. The moment you see the mechanism, their grip weakens. And so, for centuries, this knowledge remained the guarded secret of mystery schools and esoteric societies, carefully disguised and diluted before ever reaching public hands, until now. There are truths buried within these teachings that go far beyond what can be safely shared on a platform like this. That's why I've created Insights Academy, a free private community where I reveal the deeper layers, the practical applications, and the powerful techniques. And for a limited time, you'll receive a free digital guide, The 7 Hermetic Principles. Upon joining, the link is in the description. Don't miss what they don't want you to discover, the keys to unlocking your inherent power. The Hermetic blueprint begins with this fundamental shift. Stop reacting to life and start observing how life responds to you. Recognize that every experience you've ever had is not random, but a mirror of your energetic state. The patterns you struggle with aren't accidents. They are feedback loops. When your mind is scattered, your outcomes become fragmented. When your emotions are charged with fear or resentment, your reality echoes that distortion. And when your inner world stabilizes, clarity returns, opportunities emerge, relationships improve, health shifts because the field always mirrors the signal you're sending. But here lies the deeper danger for those in control. Once you realize that mastery over energy starts from within, you no longer need external permission. You stop looking for approval from authority figures, institutions, or societal norms. You recognize that you are the source, and the system built entirely on your compliance begins to unravel. The moment enough people awaken to this truth, control structures collapse, not through rebellion but through irrelevance. A population that governs its own energy cannot be manipulated by fear, scarcity, or manufactured crisis. That is why they buried the knowledge, but what was hidden can be remembered, and more importantly, it can be experienced. The Hermetic masters understood that the first and most powerful instrument of energy manipulation is not some external ritual or secret symbol, it is your mind. Not in the abstract way people speak about positive thinking or mindset, but in a far more literal, energetic sense. Your thoughts are not passive observations, they are the first wave of creation. Every thought you repeat, especially those infused with emotion, generates a frequency, a signal projected outward into the field that surrounds you. This is not a metaphor. This is the raw mechanism of how energy interacts with reality. The field doesn't respond to what you claim to believe. It responds to what you consistently radiate. You've experienced this already, even if you didn't recognize it. When you wake up anxious and tense, the world seems to reflect that mood back at you all day long. Traffic seems worse. People seem more difficult. Small problems snowball into bigger ones. And yet on days where you feel light, focused, and grounded, circumstances seem to flow effortlessly. Opportunities arise, solutions present themselves, conversations feel smoother. This isn't a coincidence, this is feedback. The field surrounding you responds to your internal broadcast. The Hermetic teachings make this painfully clear. Reality is not objective, it is participatory. Your mind is not observing a pre-existing world. It is actively shaping the version of the world you experience. Two people can walk through the same city on the same day and have utterly different experiences. Not because the city changes, but because their fields filter and attract entirely different versions of reality. Your mind, like a lens, determines which fragments of possibility collapse into your lived experience. This is why fear is so destructive. It narrows the lens, focusing your broadcast on worst-case scenarios which then magnetize similar outcomes. But it's not just about random thoughts floating through your mind. What matters is the consistency of your internal state. A single fearful thought will not destroy your reality, but persistent repetition of fear-laden, self-limiting thoughts creates a strong, consistent frequency. The field around you doesn't judge whether that frequency is good or bad. It simply mirrors it. The more you reinforce a narrative internally, the more you pull in experiences that validate it. This is why people trapped in cycles of self-doubt, scarcity, or victimhood feel as if life keeps confirming their worst fears. It's not because they're cursed, it's because they're broadcasting a coherent signal, and the field is doing what it always does, reflecting. The Hermetic texts go deeper still. They teach that thoughts aren't isolated bursts of electrical activity inside your skull. Thought is vibration. Vibration is energy, and energy moves. This is why your internal narrative matters more than most people can imagine. Every worry, every hope, every belief sends ripples into the field around you, and those ripples shape the opportunities, encounters, and challenges you face. Change your internal frequency, and your external world cannot help but rearrange itself in response. But here's where most people sabotage themselves without realizing it. They try to shift their reality through forced affirmations or hollow declarations, all while still carrying unresolved emotional charge underneath. They say, "I am successful," while feeling anxious about failure. They repeat, "I am abundant," while fearing scarcity. The field doesn't respond to the words, it responds to the dominant emotional frequency behind those words. You cannot lie to your own field. The energy doesn't obey language, it obeys coherence. This is why mastering your mind requires more than just positive thinking. It requires emotional discipline. Emotional charge acts as an amplifier. A small thought infused with strong emotion broadcasts more powerfully than dozens of empty affirmations. The Hermetic masters taught that focused attention combined with emotional alignment creates potent vibrational output. The clearer your mind, the steadier your emotional state, the stronger and cleaner your energetic broadcast becomes. Think of your mind like a tuning fork. When it's clear, still, and focused, it vibrates at a stable frequency, resonating powerfully through the field. But when it's cluttered with conflicting thoughts, unresolved emotions, and scattered attention, the signal fractures. The field then reflects back chaos, confusion, and mixed results. This is why most people feel stuck. They're not unlucky, they're energetically incoherent. The Hermetic path demands internal sovereignty. It requires you to observe your thoughts, not as passive noise, but as creative tools. It challenges you to bring awareness to every mental loop, every emotional spiral, and every unconscious narrative you carry, because every one of these shapes your field, and your field shapes your reality. When you truly grasp that your mind is not contained within your skull, but radiates outward like a signal tower, everything changes. You stop chasing external validation. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for the world to improve. Instead, you turn inward, refining the only control panel that ever mattered, because when your internal state shifts, reality cannot help but follow. And the more you refine your inner world, the brighter your unique signal shines, attracting a reality aligned with your highest potential. There is a reason every ancient spiritual and esoteric tradition placed such extraordinary importance on breath. The Hermetic masters were no different. They understood something that modern society has almost entirely forgotten. Breath is not just biological, it is energetic. Every inhale carries more than oxygen, it carries life force. And every exhale is more than carbon dioxide. It is a release, a clearing of internal energy. The breath is the bridge between your body, your mind, and the field that surrounds you. If the mind is your first generator of reality, breath is your first tool to control it. As a child, before life layered you with tension, fear, and programming, you breathed fully and naturally. Your belly would rise and fall, pulling energy smoothly through your system. But as you grew, your breath changed. Stress crept in. Expectations weighed on you. The shallow chest breathing most adults default to is not a coincidence. It is a physical reflection of energetic constriction. Shallow breath fragments your internal flow, limits your energetic capacity, and disconnects you from your own power. It keeps you small, reactive, and easily manipulated. The Hermetic texts speak of spiritus, not in the religious sense, but as the vital, animating current that flows through all things. Breath was seen as the vehicle through which this current enters and moves through the body. When you breathe deeply, fully, and consciously, you don't just oxygenate your blood. You activate your energetic system. You stabilize your nervous system, calm your emotions, and clear mental noise. This is why every tradition that sought energetic mastery, Hermetic, Taoist, yogic, begins with the breath. It is the most accessible, powerful, and immediate tool you possess. Yet it's the one most people overlook entirely. And it's always available to you in every moment, a constant source of strength and clarity. Modern society has programmed you to live in your head, constantly thinking, analyzing, worrying. The breath grounds you back into the body. It reconnects your awareness with the present moment, pulling your energy inward, stabilizing the wild fluctuations of scattered thought. This simple act of conscious breathing is not a performance or ritual. It is an act of energetic sovereignty. Every slow, intentional breath becomes a recalibration of your field. It resets the frequency you are broadcasting. The Hermetic masters understood that breath regulates the emotional charge behind your thoughts. When your breathing is shallow and erratic, your emotions follow suit, chaotic, impulsive, reactive. But when you slow the breath, emotions soften, thoughts stabilize, and your broadcast becomes coherent. Coherent fields attract coherent experiences. This is not wishful thinking, this is energetic law. Take a moment and observe the modern world. Look at the pace, the constant stimulation, the endless distractions. This system was not built to keep you calm. It was designed to keep you fractured, hyper-stimulated, and energetically incoherent. When you are constantly rushing, checking, scrolling, and reacting, your breath shortens, your field fragments, your reality becomes a mirror of that internal disorder, and so, without realizing it, you reinforce the very chaos you wish to escape. This is why those who control the system fear people who return to breath, because it sounds too simple, it sounds too basic, but simplicity is often the most profound form of power. They understand that a calm, centered individual is a force to be reckoned with. The moment you reclaim conscious control over your breath, you step back into command of your energetic state. You interrupt the programmed cycles of anxiety and reaction. You create a gap between stimulus and response, and in that gap, freedom is born. The breath doesn't require belief, it doesn't demand rituals or ceremonies, it simply asks for awareness. The more you breathe with intention, the more sensitive you become to subtle shifts in your field. You begin to feel the quiet expansion of your energetic system. You sense the spaces between thoughts. You notice how quickly your emotional state can pivot with just a few minutes of deliberate breathing. This sensitivity becomes the foundation upon which all further energetic work is built. What the Hermetic texts reveal is that mastery over energy starts with mastery over self. And self-mastery starts with something as simple, as accessible, and as profound as your breath. This is the doorway they hoped you'd never open, because once you step through it, you begin to realize how much of your life you've spent disconnected from your own power. And the moment you reconnect, the system's grip weakens. You become a sovereign being, anchored in your own truth. Even as you begin to awaken to your ability to feel and influence energy, you will quickly encounter resistance, not from the outside world, but from within. The emotional debris you've accumulated over years of unconscious living doesn't simply vanish when you recognize it. It lingers like static in your field, subtly distorting the signals you broadcast. This is where the Hermetic principle of purification becomes essential, not as some abstract concept of moral cleansing, but as an energetic necessity for clarity, coherence, and influence. The Hermetic masters understood that emotional charge is the fuel behind your energetic broadcasts. Every fear you carry, every resentment you harbor, every lingering shame embeds itself into your field like invisible weight. This weight clouds your ability to transmit clean signals into the energetic fabric of reality. The field responds not to what you say you want, but to the dominant frequency you maintain. If your conscious desires are layered on top of unresolved emotional tension, the broadcast becomes fractured, and the results in your life reflect that distortion. You've likely felt this before, the frustration of working towards goals while quietly battling inner doubt. The tension between wanting success but fearing failure. The longing for love while carrying the wounds of past betrayal. These contradictions are not just psychological. They are energetic conflicts that confuse the field around you. The result is mixed signals, stalled progress, and experiences that seem to contradict your efforts. You are not being punished. You are experiencing the perfect mirror of your internal fragmentation. Purification in Hermetic practice is the process of dissolving this fragmentation. It's not about suppressing or denying emotions, but about fully facing them, acknowledging their presence, and allowing them to release their grip on your field. The emotions themselves are not the problem. It's the unconscious clinging to them that generates distortion. Anger can transform into focused drive. Fear can evolve into heightened awareness, but only when you bring conscious attention to them without resistance. The act of purification demands honesty, brutal, unflinching honesty with yourself. To sit quietly and scan your internal landscape without judgment, to identify the patterns you repeat, the stories you tell yourself, and the unresolved emotions you carry like hidden anchors. This internal inventory is where energetic sovereignty begins, because you cannot transmit a clear frequency while weighed down by subconscious baggage you refuse to acknowledge. It's about taking ownership of your inner world and choosing to create space for clarity and potential. The Hermetic masters often describe the soul as a mirror. When that mirror is clear, it reflects the divine current without distortion. When it is clouded by unresolved desires, attachments, and fears, the reflection becomes warped. The current still flows, but its expression in your life becomes chaotic, unpredictable, and often painful. Purification is the polishing of that mirror. Every moment of self-reflection, every act of emotional release, every conscious breath taken in awareness is a swipe across the glass, restoring clarity. It's a continuous process of self-discovery and refinement. You may notice as you purify your field that your external world responds with surprising speed. Conflicts dissolve, synchronicities increase, opportunities align effortlessly. This isn't magic. This is the field responding to a coherent signal. When your internal broadcast is no longer competing with layers of subconscious noise, reality has no choice but to mirror that stability. You become a magnet for positive experiences, a beacon of clarity in a world of chaos. But here lies the hidden challenge. Most people fear this process because facing your inner fragmentation means confronting discomfort. It means releasing identities built on pain, letting go of grievances that have defined you, abandoning narratives that have justified your limitations. The system you've been raised in has conditioned you to avoid this level of internal responsibility. It taught you to seek distractions, to blame circumstances, to numb discomfort rather than transmute it, because a fragmented person is far easier to control than one who has claimed full ownership of their internal state. Purification is the price of freedom. It's a journey of courage, self-compassion, and unwavering commitment to your own evolution. The world around you shifts in direct proportion to the clarity within you. The Hermetic texts don't promise escape from challenge. They offer mastery over how challenge is experienced. They reveal that true power is not found in manipulating external conditions, but in refining your internal broadcast so thoroughly that the field itself bends to your frequency. This is not the work of the weak, but it is the work of the free. And it is a journey that will transform you from a passive recipient of life to a conscious co-creator. You've been sensing it your entire life, even if you didn't have the language to name it. The chill that runs down your spine when someone's gaze lingers on you from behind. The sudden tension in a room thick with unspoken conflict. The warmth you feel when you sit beside someone you trust without a word being exchanged. These aren't accidents. They aren't tricks of imagination. They are glimpses into the energetic field that surrounds you, a field you've been trained to ignore. The Hermetic masters knew that perception of energy was not a mystical gift granted to the few, but a dormant sense inherent in everyone, one that has simply atrophied through neglect. Your body is a sophisticated instrument of energetic detection. Beyond your 5 physical senses lies this subtler awareness, a kind of internal radar constantly scanning the unseen layers of your environment. Animals still live in tune with it, sensing danger long before the mind can rationalize it. Children experience it naturally before they are conditioned to suppress it. But for most adults immersed in the constant noise of modern life, this faculty becomes muted, not because it was lost, but because it was never trained. And it's waiting to be rediscovered, waiting to be reawakened. The Hermetic path reawakens this sense because mastery over energy does not begin with grand manipulations of external forces. It begins with awareness, with learning to feel what has always been there. And once you begin to tune into these subtle sensations, you'll realize just how much of your experience has been guided by energetic information all along. At first, it's incredibly subtle, a tingling in your palms for no apparent reason, a pressure behind your forehead when you focus deeply, a sudden shift in the air around you when emotions escalate in a conversation. These sensations are the field responding to both your own internal state and to the energies of those around you. And as you begin to observe them intentionally, your sensitivity grows. What once seemed random becomes recognizable patterns. You start to decipher the language of energy. The Hermetic teachings offer simple practices to develop this sensitivity, not complicated rituals, but quiet, deliberate exercises of attention. For example, rubbing your palms together and slowly separating them while focusing on the space between. At first, you may feel nothing, but as you concentrate, you may notice a tingling, a pulsing resistance, or a magnetic sensation in the air. This is not imagination. It is your field responding to directed awareness. Your attention itself acts as a conduit for energy. Where focus goes, energy flows. This process is not about acquiring new abilities. It's about peeling back layers of numbness imposed by years of distraction, overthinking, and cultural programming that dismissed such perceptions as childish fantasy. Modern society rewards intellectual analysis and dismisses subtle feeling as unreliable, but the Hermetic masters understood that true knowledge begins with perception, not only of the world around you, but of the energetic currents that constantly flow through you. As you develop this sensitivity, you may also become more aware of how environments, people, and even objects carry energetic imprints. A cluttered, chaotic space may feel heavy. Certain people may drain your energy simply by being near them. Others may leave you feeling uplifted after a brief encounter. Again, these are not metaphors. They are energetic exchanges taking place beneath conscious dialogue, and they are happening constantly whether you acknowledge them or not. And once you become aware of them, you can begin to make conscious choices about your environment and your relationships. The more attuned you become to these sensations, the more you begin to see how much you've unconsciously absorbed from your surroundings, energetic debris collected from environments, from interactions, from media consumption. Without awareness, your field becomes a dumping ground for external energies, muddying your own broadcast and distorting your reality. This is why sensitivity and awareness are inseparable from purification and protection. The more you can feel, the more responsibility you have to maintain clarity. It's about cultivating discernment, choosing what you allow into your field, and protecting yourself from unwanted influences. But there is a danger here too, one the Hermetic teachings caution against. As sensitivity increases, so does vulnerability, because energy follows attention, and attention amplifies sensation. Without proper grounding and discipline, highly sensitive individuals can become overwhelmed by external fields, absorbing energies that do not belong to them and mistaking them for their own. This is why the path of energy mastery is not simply about opening perception, but about learning to regulate it with precision. Feeling energy is the first gateway. Controlling it comes next. But you cannot command what you cannot feel, and you must learn to protect yourself from becoming a sponge for the energies of others. This is the skill they hoped you'd never redevelop, because once you become aware of these subtle forces, you start to recognize how easily systems of control exploit your numbness. Marketing, media, social pressure, they all manipulate energy at a mass scale, feeding emotional triggers that bypass rational thought. A population disconnected from its own energetic sensitivity is far easier to manipulate than one that can feel the difference between truth and distortion in their own field. The Hermetic masters were not offering entertainment or vague spirituality. They were offering tools for sovereignty, and it all starts here with the simple act of paying attention to what you've long been taught to ignore. You have always been immersed in energy. The difference now is that you are finally beginning to feel it. And with that feeling comes the power to choose. As your awareness sharpens and your sensitivity to energy deepens, something unexpected happens. You begin to notice not only your own energetic shifts, but the weight, density, and noise of the energies around you. Rooms feel heavier after certain conversations. You sense agitation in crowds before words are spoken. Some places leave you feeling drained within minutes of entering. This isn't coincidence. This is the side effect of an awakening field. What was once filtered out by numbness is now fully perceptible. And with perception comes responsibility. Responsibility to protect your own field, to cleanse it regularly, and to create an environment that supports your well-being. The Hermetic masters knew that mastery over energy requires maintenance, not just awareness. Just as physical hygiene prevents illness, energetic hygiene prevents distortion and exhaustion, because the more open and attuned you become, the more you risk absorbing the chaotic, fragmented energy that saturates modern environments. Every interaction, every emotional exchange, every environment carries energetic residue. Without regular cleansing, this static builds up like dust on glass, clouding your clarity, weakening your field, and dragging your frequency down. It's like living in a polluted city. You need to take steps to protect yourself from the toxins in the air. Think of the subtle exhaustion you feel after scrolling mindlessly through social media for hours, or after spending time around negative, emotionally volatile people. The mental fog, the irritability, the heaviness in your chest, this isn't simply mental fatigue. It's energetic contamination. The nervous system mirrors what's happening in your field. You're not just consuming information, you're absorbing vibration, and most people live their entire lives saturated in this noise, never realizing how much of their internal state is shaped by external energetic debris. And they wonder why they feel so drained, so anxious, so disconnected. The Hermetic teachings offer practical methods to manage this. One of the most immediate tools is breath-based cleansing. With slow, deliberate breathing, you can visualize stagnant energy leaving your system with every exhale, dissolving like smoke. As you inhale, you draw in clarity and coherence. This simple act, when done with focused intention, clears the fog and recalibrates your field. The breath once again becomes your most accessible ally. It's a constant source of purification and renewal. Hand-sweeping techniques amplify this process. With slow, deliberate motions of your palms hovering just above your body, you can physically guide the sensation of stagnant energy out of your field. Imagine brushing away a fine dust that clings to your skin. The more you practice, the more tangible the sensations become, and the more responsive your field is to your intent. But cleansing is only half of the equation. Shielding your field is just as vital, especially as your sensitivity increases. It's about creating a protective barrier around yourself. The Hermetic masters taught that thought directs energy, and visualization is one of the most powerful ways to shape it. By visualizing a sphere of light expanding around your body, you create a subtle but potent energetic boundary. This boundary acts like a filter, allowing in what resonates with your intention while repelling chaotic or heavy vibrations that would otherwise stick to you. The color and texture of this shield are tools you can adjust depending on your state. A golden sphere for strength, blue for calm, white for purity. What matters is not the imagery itself, but the clarity of your intent behind it. As your practice strengthens, this shield becomes more than imagination. It becomes a perceptible extension of your field, actively responding to your environment without constant conscious effort. It's like creating your own personal energetic force field. Grounding completes the triad. When your energy becomes overly charged, whether through emotional surges, intense focus, or environmental overload, it needs a place to discharge. The earth serves this function. Walking barefoot on natural ground, sitting beneath trees, or even placing your hands on stone can pull excess charge from your field, restoring balance. This is not symbolic, it is literal. The earth absorbs and stabilizes the energetic overflow, allowing your field to reset. It's like plugging into a natural grounding wire. Modern life rarely allows for this. Concrete, artificial environments, and constant digital stimulation sever your connection to natural grounding mechanisms, leaving your field overloaded and destabilized. The Hermetic masters didn't have to contend with this, but the principle remains the same. Without grounding, energy builds to chaotic levels, leading to emotional volatility, insomnia, anxiety, and chronic fatigue. Most modern ailments described as stress are often symptoms of chronic energetic imbalance left unaddressed, and they can be easily addressed with a few simple grounding techniques. What you are learning is not complicated. It is simply foreign to a culture that has systematically dismissed anything that cannot be measured by machines or monetized by corporations. But those who govern these systems understand the power of energetic hygiene. They use it themselves, quietly, discreetly, while feeding you narratives that dismiss it as nonsense because a population that neglects its own energy is far easier to manipulate. They become sponges for collective fear, outrage, and division, perfectly primed for external control. This is why cleansing, shielding, and grounding are not optional for those on the Hermetic path. They are essential disciplines. Without them, sensitivity becomes a liability rather than a strength, but with them you build resilience. You maintain coherence in chaotic environments. You move through life as a stable force, unaffected by the storms swirling around you. And in a world engineered to fragment your energy at every turn, this stability becomes an act of quiet rebellion. You become a sovereign being, protected by your own energetic integrity. There is a deeper level of mastery, one that the Hermetic teachings elevate above all others. It's not just about cleansing what's heavy, shielding from what's chaotic, or grounding what's excessive. True sovereignty comes when you no longer fear the density but learn to harness it. This is transmutation, the ancient art of turning the gross into the subtle, the lead into gold, the pain into power. And it is this skill that makes you untouchable to systems of control, because once you know how to convert even your most difficult emotions into fuel, you become self-sufficient. You no longer rely on external conditions to feel stable. The system loses its leverage. You become the master of your own energetic destiny. Transmutation begins with a single principle. Energy is neutral. What we call negative or toxic is not inherently bad. It is simply energy misaligned, misplaced, or in a form that no longer serves you. Fear is just energy twisted by perception. Anger is raw charge without proper direction. Anxiety is unchanneled sensitivity spinning in circles. The Hermetic masters understood that all of these states, once acknowledged and redirected, can fuel clarity, drive, and resilience. But as long as you resist them, deny them, or attempt to suppress them, they remain frozen blocks within your field, distorting your reality and weakening your broadcast. You must learn to embrace them, to understand them, and to transform them. The first step in transmutation is observation without judgment. When a heavy emotion arises, pause. Instead of flinching or reacting, observe where it lives in your body. Is it a tightness in your chest, a knot in your stomach, a pressure behind your eyes? By bringing conscious awareness to its location, you turn what was once an overwhelming sensation into something defined, something that can be worked with. The moment you name it, you shift from being consumed by it to observing it. And with observation comes the opportunity for transformation. Once observed, you begin to feed it into your internal crucible. The Hermeticists often referred to this energetic center as the solar plexus, the seat of personal will and transformation. Visualize a steady golden flame burning there, ready to receive whatever dense energy surfaces. With each inhale, gather the heavy sensation. With each exhale, see it flowing into that flame, not forced, not violent, but deliberate. The fire consumes and refines it, converting tension into fuel. As the flame strengthens, you may feel your body lighten, your mind sharpen, and your emotions stabilize. You are alchemizing your pain, turning it into power. Color becomes another tool. The vibrational frequency of colors carries specific energetic signatures. Violet, long used in mystical traditions, resonates with transmutation. By visualizing yourself surrounded by violet light during this process, you amplify your intent. The violet field penetrates deeply, breaking apart stubborn densities and reorganizing them into clarity. When exhaustion or emotional numbness creeps in, shift to gold or white frequencies that restore vitality and mental illumination. These aren't just mental games, they're energetic commands recognized by your field and reflected in your nervous system's response. You are speaking directly to your energy body. Sound, too, becomes an ally. A low, steady hum, a prolonged ohm vibration reverberates through your body, shaking loose, stagnant energy and reorganizing your field. You don't need to sing. You only need to allow the sound to move through you with steady breath and focused attention. The vibrations interact directly with your energetic anatomy, loosening knots of stagnant frequency that words alone cannot reach. It's a powerful way to break through emotional blockages. The more you practice this process, the faster your recovery from emotional triggers becomes. What used to spiral you into days of anxiety or frustration now dissipates in minutes, because you're no longer fighting the emotion. You're metabolizing it. You are extracting its charge and recycling it into usable fuel. This is why transmutation is so feared by those who control the system, because a person who knows how to transform fear into focus or pain into drive is impossible to destabilize. They no longer require external reassurance or ideal conditions to thrive. They generate stability from within. They become self-reliant and resilient. The system thrives on your fear of discomfort. It wants you addicted to comfort, to easy fixes, to distractions that numb rather than resolve. Pharmaceuticals, endless entertainment, consumerism, all designed to keep you running from discomfort rather than facing and transmuting it, because as long as you resist your own shadows, they control you. But the moment you face them fully, you break their grip. You reclaim your power. Transmutation doesn't mean you never feel pain, anger, or fear again. It means you stop being ruled by them. You become the alchemist, receiving whatever arises not as a threat, but as raw material for refinement. The Hermetic path does not promise a life free of challenge. It offers something far greater, the capacity to thrive within any circumstance by transforming whatever life brings into strength. This is real power, quiet, steady, unshakable, and it's been waiting inside you all along. It's the power to create your own reality, to live a life of purpose, and to contribute to a world of greater harmony. Beneath every technique, every practice, every layer of Hermetic wisdom lies one unshakable law, the law that explains why any of this works at all, the law of vibration. Everything vibrates, nothing rests. Every object, every thought, every emotion, every intention carries its own frequency, oscillating through the fabric of reality, and it is this frequency that determines the shape of your experience. It's the fundamental principle that governs the universe. The Hermetic masters understood that the quality of your life is not determined by circumstance, but by resonance. You do not attract what you want, you attract what you are. This truth is both liberating and confronting because it means that no external force has final say over your reality. But it also means you are always participating in what unfolds, whether you realize it or not. Every repeating pattern in your life, whether it's financial struggle, toxic relationships, or cycles of stagnation, is not simply bad luck or external injustice. It is resonance. The field responds to the signal you sustain, not the fleeting wishes you make when you're desperate, not the occasional positive thought you offer in frustration, but the consistent, dominant frequency you live in every day. It's a constant feedback loop between your inner world and your outer experience. This is where people often misunderstand the so-called law of attraction popularized in watered-down self-help teachings. It's not about simply thinking positive thoughts and waiting for the universe to deliver. The field doesn't respond to your surface declarations. It responds to the emotional charge you live in moment after moment. You can speak abundance while vibrating fear. You can declare confidence while vibrating self-doubt, and the field will always mirror the deeper, more consistent vibration. This is why some people feel trapped in endless loops. They are trying to change reality with words while their emotional field remains unchanged. It's like trying to tune a radio with a broken dial. The Hermetic masters taught that your emotional state is the amplifier of your broadcast. Thought sets the frequency, emotion determines its power, repetition solidifies its coherence. When thought, emotion, and repetition align, you generate a stable frequency that reality cannot ignore. This is why disciplining your internal state is not an act of blind optimism, but one of technical precision. The field around you is not sentimental. It does not reward desire. It reflects resonance. It's a precise and unwavering law. The good news is that once you understand this mechanism, you hold the keys to reshaping your experience. You no longer need to chase outcomes. You don't need to manipulate people or force situations. You focus on stabilizing your own frequency, and life reorganizes itself around that stability. The right people appear, opportunities present themselves, circumstances shift because the external world is responding to your inner state of coherence. You become a magnet for the things you desire. But coherence requires consistency. The field measures your broadcast by what you sustain, not what you occasionally visit. A few minutes of focused meditation in the morning cannot override an entire day of fear-driven mental loops. This is why most people fail to shift their reality. They treat energetic mastery as an occasional ritual, rather than a living discipline. It's a lifestyle, a commitment to cultivating inner harmony. Hermetic practice demands vigilance. The real work happens in your ordinary everyday moments. How you respond to frustration, how you manage doubt, how you navigate uncertainty. The law of vibration doesn't stop functioning because you forget about it. It operates whether you acknowledge it or not. The choice is whether you participate consciously or unconsciously. And the more conscious you become, the more powerful you become. The system that governs society has long understood this. That's why media, politics, and advertising are. So, to bring it all together, what the Corpus Hermeticum ultimately reveals is a path back to your own inherent power. It's about recognizing that you're not a passive bystander in your life, but a powerful creator, capable of shaping your reality through conscious thought, breath, and intentional energy work. It's a journey of self-discovery, purification, and ultimately, freedom. Remember, this knowledge was hidden for a reason. But now it's time to reclaim your birthright and step into your full potential. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on all of this. What resonated most with you? Do you have any experiences with energy work or the Corpus Hermeticum that you'd like to share? Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your perspective and answer any questions you might have. And if you found this information helpful and want to delve deeper into these kinds of topics, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. Let's explore the mysteries of consciousness and create a more empowered world together.